Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I am going to get started, but other people can trickle in as they need to join. So today, this training is going to take 2 hours, and we're going to start with how to get started in the software, and then also we can move on to some more advanced analysis techniques in the software. I'm also going to just give you a little bit of background on the site license that's available at UChicago. And so I am Catherine Rittenbach. I'm a technical applications specialist with De Novo Software. And today we're going to be going over how FCS Express can help benefit your analysis with flow cytometry data. Okay, so why use FCS Express? Why bother learning a new analysis software? Well, over the past 20 years, we've seen this convergence of technology. So we used to have to carry around a cell phone if we wanted to make calls, and a GPS if we wanted to navigate, and a calculator if we wanted to do calculations. We had to carry around all these devices to do all of those different functions. But now all of those functions are wrapped up into one device. It's the smartphone. And it just makes our lives super easy and super convenient to be able to do all of those functions in the palm of our hands. And we see the same need for convergence in flow cytometry data analysis. So if you are used to using a different analysis software like FlowJo, you may have had to do your statistical analysis in Excel, and you may have had to export those statistics to Prism in order to make the graphs that you want to make. And then you may have had to copy and paste a bunch of things into PowerPoint in order to develop your final presentation. And with FCS Express, actually, all of those functions are wrapped up into one software package. So it just makes your analysis more convenient and more efficient. So if you're used to using other flow cytometry analysis programs, you might notice that they can simply produce plots and basic statistics. And then it's on you to export that to other software packages to continue your analysis. So you may have had to copy and paste some statistics from the table editor into Excel and Prism. You may have had to copy and paste your plots into Photoshop or PowerPoint to make them look the way that you want them to look. You may have had to install and use an R plugin in order to run data transformations. And so by the time you're done with your analysis, you have a ton of different windows open. You have a ton of different software packages that you've had to use, and then you can get your final result in the end. That's a lot of steps to go through. So with FCS Express, all of those tools that you're going to need for analysis, statistics, graphing, and reporting are all going to be available in one software package. So you aren't going to need to use all of those other packages in order to get your final result. You can get that final result right from FCS Express. So you do have a site license at UChicago here. So you can let David know if you are interested in joining that license. And we also have, so the site license works with our internet dongle technology. And what that means is as long as your computer is connected to the internet, you can install FCS Express on as many computers as you want. You can install it on the lab computer and your personal computer and your cousin's computer, as many computers as you want. You can install FCS Express on. And then once you launch FCS Express, you'll see a login screen. And each user is going to have unique credentials. So it'll be like your email address and your personal password. And then when you launch the software on any computer, you can go in and log in and use the software. And the great thing about the site license is that even though there are many people on the site license, every person can just log into the software and use it at any time they want, even if somebody else on the site license is currently using the software. So it's really flexible, and it gives you the ability to log on and do your analysis whenever and wherever you want. So FCS Express has many features, but I'm just going to highlight a few of them here. So you can do easy exporting into multiple different formats. You can use our integrated spreadsheet tools, integrated graphing tools, integrated reporting and presentation tools. When you change something in your layout while you're doing your analysis, then your entire layout is going to update in real time automatically. So that means all your downstream plots and your downstream statistics will update automatically in real time. You do not need to use external software to enhance your plots and make them look the way that you want. So that means you don't need to use Photoshop. You can make your plots look how you want right within FCS Express. You can export ultra high resolution graphics that are going to be perfect for your publication and presentation. And our whole goal here is to reduce the time that it takes for you to do your analysis. And we also want to reduce the complexity of the process. So before we jump into the software, I want to give you a little bit of background on FCS Express. So it will run on both Mac and PC. And they're actually interchangeable too. So you could, on a Mac, create a layout, and then you could save that layout, and then you could send it over to a PC, and you could open it up on a PC and continue working. You can also save your layout on one computer and then send it to another user, perhaps a friend or a lab mate, and if they want to open it up on their computer, they can do that and look at your analysis or continue working on that analysis. So it's great for collaboration. We can actually read data from all different flow cytometers, and this includes spectral data, and it also includes image data. And just if you want to load in image data, that does require a slightly different version. So that would require the plus version or the image version of the software. So there's also no limit to the number of parameters or events in the data file. So if you may have used Flojo in the past, you could have run into an issue where the data file might have been too large and you had trouble loading it in, or it took a really long time. So with FCS Express, it's going to load that really large data file more quickly and more easily in comparison. We do have complete compensation support. So if you compensate your data on the instrument, then that fully compensated data is going to be loaded automatically into FCS Express along with your data. You are not going to have to run compensation again. If you want to tweak your compensation, you can do that in FCS Express. And if you want to rerun compensation, or if you want to run compensation for the first time within FCS Express, you also have this auto compensation wizard available. And I'm going to show you that how easy it is to load in those single color controls and calculate compensation within FCS Express. We also have a whole list of integrated statistics here that you can report on your layout, and you can also export to Excel. So, and this is all going to update in real time as your layout changes and as your analysis changes. So for example, if we want to report that percentage of gated cells, and then we go and move that gate by a couple of pixels, you don't have to go and re-export the statistic. You don't have to copy and paste the new statistic. That percentage of gated cells is going to update automatically in real time. We also support and have all of those commonly used plot types available. They just might be called something slightly different than what you're used to seeing. So in Flojo, a pseudo color plot would translate to a density plot in FCS Express. And also a zebra plot in Flojo would translate to a contour plot with black and white stripes in FCS Express. So if there's a tool or a feature that you're looking for and you can't quite find it, don't assume that it's not there. Please reach out to us. We're happy to help. We have a whole team of support experts, and we are always able to answer your questions. So feel free to email us at support@denovosoftware.com. It's really important that you can remember that. And we will always get back to you within 24 hours, but usually we'll get back to you within just a few hours. And you can feel free to ask us any questions about finding tools, how to get started with using tools, and if you run into any troubles while you're using the software. We're happy to help you to make your analysis more efficient. We also have a ton of resources available for your learning on your own and for referencing. if you forget how to use a tool or a feature. And so I'm going to go over all of these in just a minute. So let's jump into the software. And when you launch the software, the first thing that you're going to see is this startup screen. And this is where all these resources are available for you. So we're going to see this video guide here, and that actually is a video player, and we have a whole list here of all these videos, and they are 2 to 3 minutes long, and so it just gives you a really quick overview and step-by-step instructions on how to get started with any of these tools. So it's a great reference to have here. We have some examples of how other people have used FCS Express, and it might help you inspire your analysis. We have step-by-step tutorials here available, and you can use our sample data set also to run those tutorials. And so that can help you really learn how to use all of our features. If you forget that email address or you want to contact us by phone, you can click on this support button, and this will get you our contact information. We also have a searchable manual here. And so if you learn best by reading, we have very, very, very detailed instructions and explanations in the manual on all of our tools in the software. And then we have all of our recorded webinars here for many, many years. You can access them here. But we also have a YouTube channel where we post all of those videos as well. And that YouTube channel, I would recommend visiting first, because we do have a search bar on that YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel is called De Novo Software, just our company name. And there you'll be able to search for and find a video on any topic that you're looking for. And then the two most commonly used buttons here are the new layout button and the open layout button. And so we're going to press the new layout button if we want to start a new analysis from scratch, and you'll be able to get this blank page that you see behind me. If you do previously save a layout, you're trying to use a layout as a template, or somebody has sent you a layout that you want to open, then I would recommend using this open layout button. Okay, so I have clicked on new layout and I have opened a brand new layout. So let's get started on this software. I'm going to try to build up a analysis from scratch so that you can see how that is done. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is load in our data. And there's a couple of different ways that we could do that. And I'm going to show you one way that is by making a plot. So if I go to the Insert tab here, I can choose whichever plot I want to insert here. So I'm going to just choose a density plot, and then I can click anywhere on my layout to add that. And then I just go search for where my data is located. So I have it in this folder, and then I can choose the data file that I want to display on that plot. So down here, we have a bunch of different file types that you can load into FCS Express, not just FCS files, but for today, I do have FCS files that I want to load in. So I'm going to choose this option. You can also load in multiple data files at once by holding down the Shift key or the Control key and highlighting multiple files here. And then I'm going to show you later when we're doing high dimensional data reduction that we are going to be merging those FCS files so that we can apply the same data transformation to all of those files at once. But let me just backtrack, and we're going to start off real simple today. I'm going to just load in this one file here onto my plot, and so I'll press open file. And now you can see in this default title, we have that file name. And then we also have these default axes. This is just because it's the first and second parameter. And the reason it does this is because it assumes typically the first and second parameter from your instrument are going to be forward scatter and side scatter, which is usually the first plot that anyone wants to make. But you can feel free to customize these by clicking on the parameter and then choosing the new parameter that you want to choose. So we also have a search bar at the top here. So if you have a really long list of parameters, you can just search for whichever parameter you're looking for. and choose that. So I'm going to do CD45 versus side scatter for now. And then there's a couple of things I like to keep open while I'm doing my analysis. The first thing is the data list, and this is a window. So I'm going to go to the data tab and choose data list. And now we have this new window. And it's a dockable window. You might find this in a couple of different places in FCS Express, especially for these navigators. But a dockable window means that when we click on it and try to move it, we have this icon that appears in the middle of the screen, and that allows us to dock this window to the left, to the bottom, or to the right of my screen. And I'm going to dock it to the left for now. And so that just kind of keeps it out of the way, but still accessible for me to navigate through my data. And you'll notice here that this first file in the data list is highlighted in cyan. And that means that that is the one that is currently selected. That's the iteration that is currently selected. And that means that my plots and my statistics on my layout are currently displaying that data file. We can easily move between data files by clicking on this iteration button. We can also go into the data tab and under change data on all objects, we can use this next and previous button. You'll see that that cyan highlighting is moving down the list. And if you remember when I loaded in this plot, I only selected this first sample to load in. However, FCS Express by default is going to load in all of those files that are within the same folder. And the reason that it does that is it assumes you want to analyze all of those data files at once within the same layout because they're all part of the same experiment or were recorded on the same day. But if you don't want to analyze all of those right now, you can delete them from the data list. So you can highlight whichever ones you want to delete and then press that delete button. And just note that when you press that delete button, they're going to be removed from the data list, but they're not going to be removed from your computer or deleted from your computer. It just means that they're not visible within this data list right now. You can also add in additional data files here. If they were not loaded in automatically, you can press this plus sign and then you'll have the option to load in from any folder, whichever data files you want to load into that data list. Okay, and then another way that we can change the data file on a plot, for example, is by dragging and dropping from the data list onto that plot. So I'm just going to highlight this iteration right now. So if I did want to change the data file on this, I could drag and drop that data file right from the data list onto my plot. And now we're displaying that data file instead. All right, so now that we have our data list here, the other thing I like to keep open is the gate view. And that is generally a gating hierarchy. So I'm going to go to the insert tab, and this one is actually an object. It's not a window. And so this object will be added to my layout. So I'm going to click on gate view, and then I can click anywhere on my layout in order to add that gate view. And we can resize this if we want. So I do want to go over what this white space and gray space means. It is your entire space of your layout. You can actually work with both the white space and the gray space. You can move objects between them. But just note that when you export your layout to PowerPoint, all the objects that are on the white space are going to stay in the white space, and all of the objects that are in the gray space are going to stay in the gray space. When you export to PDF, only the object on the white space will be exported into that PDF. Nothing on the gray space will remain visible in that export. So this gate view, some people might like to keep it within their export space, but some people want to keep it off to the side in the gray space. So I'm going to just keep it off to the side over here, so it's a little bit out of the way. And right now it is all empty because we've not included any gates yet. So let's do that. Let's add a gate. So I'm going to go to the gating tab and I can add a gate here, whichever shape I want. So let's just draw an ellipse here around my lymphocyte population. And when I do that, I'm going to be presented with this prompt and I have to name my gate. So I'm going to name it lymphs, and then I can give it a different color if I want. We can also do this include or exclude option. So when we include, that means all of the cells within that gate will be included in the gate. But if we want to do the opposite, we could choose exclude, and that would then exclude those cells from that gate. So I'm going to press OK here. And now we have this text box that appears. It has that gate name, and then it also has a percentage reported here. This percentage is not necessarily the percent parent. Just keep that in mind. You might be used to seeing a percentage that is the percent parent, but here, this percentage is the percentage of all of the cells or all of the events that are currently displayed on this plot that are falling within this gate. So 17.99% of all of these events are falling within this gate. Okay, so in other analysis software, you might be used to double clicking on a gate in order to drill down. But in FCS Express, we do it slightly differently. We're going to click on our gate and then drag it out onto the white space of our layout. And now that creates a brand new plot that is identical to this first plot, but only displaying the lymphocytes gate. Now we can change these axes if we want. So let's change this to CD3, and we can keep this as side scatter. And then we can continue to draw gates. So if I want a polygon gate, then I can click to add vertices and then double click to close. And we can call this CD3 positive. And then let's drill down one more time. So I'm going to just drag and drop onto my layout, and then I can go ahead and change those axes. So we'll do CD4 versus CD8 here. And let's look at a data file that has a more substantial population here. And I'm going to add some rectangle gates here. So I'll just click and drag on my plot in order to add that gate, and I can call this CD8 plus, and I'll add another rectangle gate to here, and this is CD4 plus. And now we can see that this hierarchy has formed. And this hierarchy is actually interactive. It's not just a picture. So if we wanted to rearrange this hierarchy, you may be used to having to delete gates and then redraw all of the child gates. But in FCS Express, you can just drag and drop onto the new parent gate. So if we wanted the CD4 positive gate to instead be a child of our lymphocytes gate, then you can simply drag and drop it like that to rearrange the hierarchy. But since I want this to be a child of CD3, I'm actually just going to drag it onto CD3. Now, if you do want to change which gate is currently being displayed on a plot, there's a couple different ways you can do that, but I'll show you the easiest way. So you can click on a plot, and then under the gating tab, we have this current gate option. And we have a drop-down menu, and then you can choose whichever gate you want to be displayed on that plot. So if we wanted to do no gate, that's what it would look like. And then you have a note here in the title, which gate is currently being displayed on that plot. But for now, we do want to just display those lymphocytes. Okay. So we can actually change the gates a little bit. So if we want to replace a gate, let's say we've drawn an ellipse here, but we actually wanted it to be a polygon instead. We don't have to delete it and redraw it and then redraw all of the child gates. We can simply replace the gate with a new shape. So I can do that by selecting the new plot type or the new gate type that I want to draw, and then drawing that new gate. And then instead of creating a new gate with a new name, I can actually replace an existing gate. And since I want to replace that lymphocytes gate, I can choose that here and press OK. And now it has stayed the same gate, but just changed that shape. And with any gate, you are free to move them around. You can resize them. So they're really flexible here. And then you'll notice also one of the great features of FCS Express is that as you move this gate, all of the downstream plots that are connected to that gate are going to update in real time. So as we move this gate, you can see that those other downstream plots are changing. Okay, so now one other thing about gating is that we can create data-specific gates. So in Flojo, you might be used to seeing every gate being data-specific when you make it. But in FCS Express, by default, every gate has a universal gating position. So as we scroll through our data files, those gates are all going to be staying in exactly the same position regarding the fluorescence intensities. If you do happen to see the gates shifting around, that is attributed to the scale of that axis changing from data file to data file, because that is having automatic scaling to optimize the scale for that data file. But just know that that position of the gate in terms of fluorescence intensities is going to stay exactly the same as we scroll through all of our data files. But if your population is moving from data file to data file because of different staining or for whatever reason, and you do need to move that gate to be data specific for one or more of your files, we can do that. And I'll show you how. So for this iteration number 3 for this data file, let's just assume that the population, the lymphocytes population, is not going to be in this expected position. It's going to be way out here, and we need to move that that gate. So one way that we can do this with the shortcut is by clicking on the gate, holding down the shift key on our keyboard, and then dragging and dropping it to the new position. And when we do that, you'll notice that under the gating tab, we have this data specific gate button. It's now dark gray. And that means for this data file that's selected, this gate is data specific. But when we go back and we choose a different iteration, we're going to notice that the gate is going to snap back to the original universal position, because this data specific gate is only for this iteration. So if we go to iteration number 6, for example, and we continue at on these other iterations, you see that that gate has snapped back. So you can set a unique position for every single data file as needed. But for now, we can clearly see that the population's over here in that same place. So I'm actually going to disable this data specific gate. I don't need it to be a data specific gate. And when I do that, it snaps back to the universal position. Okay, so we've gone over how to replace a gate, how to make a data specific gate. And now that we have all of our plots and gates here, maybe we want to report some statistics. So I'm going to show you for the first way to report some statistics, we're going to insert a custom table. So the way that we do that is by going to the Insert tab and choosing a text box. And then I can click on my layout in order to add that text box. And I'm going to right click in the text box and choose table and insert table. And then we can choose which columns and rows we want. So I want 2 columns and 3 rows, and I'll press insert here. And now we have this table, and you can resize these columns and rows as needed. And so for this table, you can type in free-form text if you want to. So if I want some column headers here, I can type in gate and % population. And then you may be used to typing in statistics into a table or copying and pasting from somewhere into a table. But we're all human and we're all prone to make mistakes in the process. So in FCS Express, it makes a lot more sense to drag and drop our statistics and labels right from objects on our layout. So we can drag and drop, let's say we want this lymphs label here and we see this right here. We can actually just drag and drop that right into our table. And now you can see that this is highlighted in gray. And that means that it is something that we call a token. And a token is a value that is linked to a plot, it's linked to a gate, it's linked to your data file. And so as your layout updates, maybe as this value updates over here, then it's going to automatically update with wherever that token is reported. And so that prevents you from having to continuously copy and paste as your layout changes, as the statistics update. So it just makes everything really convenient. If we don't want this red text here, we can edit that text color in our text tab up here. Okay. And then if we want a different label here, let's say we want the CD3 positive label, we can drag and drop an entire gate over here. And then we are given this whole menu of statistics that we want to choose from. And actually, so our gate name is falling under this statistics category here, just to make it easy for you to find. So we can choose our gate that we want to report and the type of statistic that we want to report. And I can press OK. And so now that token has been entered here. We can also drag and drop an entire plot if we want. So if we want to drag and drop this plot over here to report the percentage of the lymphocytes, then we can choose to report a statistic token or a keyword token. If we wanted to drag that entire plot into the table, we could do that also. But for now, I'm going to choose a statistic token. And we do want to report this lymphocytes percentage. So I'm going to choose the lymphocytes gate, and I want to report the percentage of gated cells from the plot. And we can see that this 29.94 is reflecting this percentage here. And just like I showed before with the automatic updating, this applies to your statistics as well. So as I move this lymphocytes gate, you can see in my table that that percentage is updating in real time. Okay, so then let's get one more statistic in here. Another way you can add a statistic is by right-clicking and inserting a token. And then here, the most commonly used ones are statistic and keyword, but you do have a lot of other token types available. And these just have different sources for those values. So you could source it from a spreadsheet, or you could source it from your computer. If you needed like the current date and the current time, you could get the current batch iteration or the total number of iterations. So it's really customizable to source all of these values. So again, you don't have to copy and paste or physically type them in. So I do want to report a statistic. And when I do it this way, I'm going to have to choose this data source. And so since I want to report, what am I trying to report? This percentage of CD3 positive cells, that is going to come from this plot. So we are sourcing it from plot number 4 here. And it gives you a little preview here of which plot you've selected. And again, you could source it from a spreadsheet, or you could source it right from that data file instead. So then I'm going to go to the statistic option over here, and I can choose the gate for the statistic I want to report, and I want to report the percentage of gated cells from the plot. and I'll press OK. And now that is a token here that is being reported. And again, as I move this gate, then that percentage is going to update in real time. Okay, so we have this custom table, but there's another way that we can add a table that might be a little bit less work for you. So we can make plot specific tables that are pre-made. So for this CD4 versus CD8 plot, if I want to report some statistics, I can right click and choose statistics and add the gate statistics. And when I do that, we have this pre-made table here. I'll zoom in so you can see this. And we have some preset statistics already chosen here. You have one row per gate. And then if we want to adjust which statistics are going to be reported here, we can right click on that table and then we can check mark or uncheck whichever statistics we want to be reported. We also can format this object. We can format any object that's on your layout, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the formatting menu. But let's get started with this object. So when you want to format any object, if the formatting menu is not already open, we can open it by right-clicking on the object and choosing format. And then we have this formatting menu that opens on the right side. And just like the other parts of our software, this might look a little bit familiar to you. It might look similar to Microsoft PowerPoint or Microsoft Office. And we do that on purpose with every aspect of our software. We want it to kind of reflect the style of Microsoft Office so that it's more easy to learn to use and intuitive. And so you can use this formatting menu then to check mark or uncheck whichever statistics we want reported in this table. And then depending on the object that is currently selected, you're going to have a bunch of different categories here and a bunch of different formatting options. So this menu is going to change based on whichever object is selected. So if we instead select a plot, then you have the axes that you can adjust, overlays, color levels, title, legend, etc. Okay, so we have this table. I'm just going to move it out of the way and I'm going to just shrink this. Okay, let me zoom out so we can see more of this layout. Okay, so we have this custom table option, and then we have a prefabricated table option. And then for additional statistics reporting, another format you might want to use is the integrated spreadsheet. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab and choose a new spreadsheet, and we can give it a name if we want. And I'll press OK. And then that has been inserted on my layout. We can move it around, we can expand it. Just like any object on this layout, we can, if we wanted to make this plot much bigger, we could expand it like this. We could resize it. We also have undo and redo buttons that you can set in your user options to work for up to 100 actions. And so if you make a mistake and you want to go back to the old, what it looked like before, you can undo. So it just makes working with your layout really easy, and it works on virtually any action that you do in the software. Okay, so now this is our integrated spreadsheet, and you can probably see that it looks like Excel, and it actually functions like Excel also. So you could just type in values here in the cells. So if we wanted to do a formula here, if we wanted to enter 3 and 2, and then we want to multiply them together, we could reference those cells just like we would in Excel and do that calculation. But it is pretty tedious to have to type in or copy and paste values into here. And then what happens when you have to move a gate? Then you have to go back and re-enter all of those new values. So again, in FCS Express, we can use the dragging and dropping in order to link those values to your layout or to your data files. So let's just drag and drop a couple of objects in here to demonstrate. So if we want to get a value from this plot, we can drag and drop an entire plot into a cell. And then we again have the statistic and token, the statistic and keyword token options. So for that statistic, let's report the CD4 positive, and we want the X median. And what this X median statistic means is for this plot that we've dragged in, the X-axis is the CD4 parameter, and we would be reporting the median intensity for all the cells within this gate. And so that's the PE size 7 intensity. And I can press OK. And again, as we move that gate, that median intensity is going to change and update in real time. And you can see also in our table up here that those statistics will also update in real time. Okay, so we've dragged and dropped a plot in here. We can also drag and drop us if we see a statistic in this table that we like and we want to drag and drop it into our spreadsheet, we can do that as well. So if we want the number of events here, we can simply click on it, drag and drop it in here. And again, as we move the gates, then that statistic will update in real time. If we do want to do a calculation based on our statistics, we can, for example, make a custom ratio. So if I wanted to divide these values, we could do that just like we would in Excel. And even this custom ratio is going to update in real time as we move those gates. All right. So right now, we are just displaying one file at a time on our layout. And as we change the data file that we're currently viewing, you'll notice all those plots are updating. And then all of these statistics in the table, in this other table, in the spreadsheet, those are all going to update in real time to reflect the currently viewed data file. We do, however, allow you to view multiple data files on the layout at once. So before we do that, I do want to show you how we can do batch processing. So batch processing and batch exporting would be appropriate if our layout is set up like it is now. We are just displaying one sample at a time, and we're applying this same analysis strategy for every data file. And if we just want to export if we want to export to PowerPoint, for example, and we want one slide per data file, we can do that with batch processing. So I'm going to show you how we can do that. So I'm going to go to the batch tab, and we just have to take a minute to set it up. So I'm going to click on the batch actions button here. And then we have different actions that we can add. We can add different reports. And then once we add reports, we can add different tokens to, or statistics or keywords to that action. So today I'm going to set up a PowerPoint to batch export as well as an Excel document. So to save to PowerPoint, we're just going to click that button that says Save to PowerPoint. You could alternatively save to PDF. I'm going to want to open that presentation after saving, so I don't have to go and look for it. And then if we have multiple pages of our layout, you could select which pages you want to export. I'm just going to do the current page. And then when you're setting up this PowerPoint, we can combine all the output from all of our iterations, which are here, into the same presentation. And what that's going to do is export one slide per data file. And that will all be combined into one PowerPoint file. You can alternatively save the output to each iteration into a separate presentation. And if we were to select this one, we would have 9 different PowerPoint presentations that get exported. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But for now, I just want one PowerPoint presentation with one slide per file. So I'm going to end up with 9 slides. And so that's this middle option. If you have a pre-existing PowerPoint and you just want to add some extra slides onto that, you could append an existing PowerPoint presentation, but today I'm going to start with an empty file. And then before we get started with this, I do need to click on this manila envelope to give it a location for saving as well as a name. So I'm going to save it on my desktop and I'm just going to call it PowerPoint and press save. And then if you want to prevent overwriting that file, if you are planning on running this multiple times, then you can ask for confirmation before overwriting the existing file. And then I press OK. And now our PowerPoint is all set up to export. We don't have to take any additional steps there. Now let's move on to exporting to Excel. So the one that I recommend you doing is the column mode. And what this will do is it will export one row per data file, and then it will export one column per statistic that I want to report. So I'm going to press this button. And here I want to start with an empty file, but again, you can add on rows to an existing file if that's what you want to do. And then I again have to choose this manila envelope, and I can save this anywhere. I'm going to save it to my desktop and I'm just going to call it Excel and save. And then I can open that file after saving and I'll press OK. All right, so I have these actions set up. If I were to press run right now, the PowerPoint would export no problem. It would look exactly as we want it. However, this Excel document would end up being empty and completely blank because we have not assigned any statistics to it yet. But adding statistics to this report is super easy. So we can actually drag and drop objects from our layout onto this action to report any statistics that we want. So if we wanted to, we could drag and drop an entire plot onto that Excel action. We could choose to report statistics or keywords. I'm going to choose statistics. And then here, you don't have to just choose one at a time. We can multiple select these statistics by holding down the control button on our keyboard. So for, let's say we want to export for the lymphocyte, we want to export the number of events as well as for this plot, the X arithmetic mean. And then also, let's see, a percentage of the gated cells from that plot. So we see we've multiple selected by holding down the control button and clicking on multiple statistics. And I'll press OK. And now you can see that those three have been added to my Excel document. We could also drag and drop a gate. So if we wanted to drag and drop that gate on here, we could do that. So this is has automatically selected CD3 to be the gate. And let's say we want the X arithmetic mean again and the number of events. We could press OK here. And then if we wanted all of the statistics within a table that we've made, we could drag and drop the entire table, or we could drag and drop an entire text box of tokens onto here, so that it's just really easy to add all of these statistics that we want to export. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So I'm going to press under the batch tab, I'm going to press the run button. And now you can see as we're going down this data list that cyan highlighting is changing, and we're exporting one by one into our PowerPoint and our Excel document. So it was pretty fast to export all of those statistics. And now we have our Excel document here. So I'm going to wrap the text in the top row. And oh, I have forgotten to export the file name. So we don't know what file each of these rows is corresponding to. And this is an easy mistake to fix. So I'm going to just exit out of my Excel document. And I want to add in a file name. So we could drag and drop that from really any object. I'm going to drag and drop it from this plot. And it's actually under statistic token, the file name that I want. And I can just choose the file name statistic here. And I'll press OK. And we can also rearrange these statistics if we want to change the order of the columns. So I want that file name to be in the first column. And now we can run again. And it's important that the iteration you want to start with for exporting is currently selected. It's going to just go down the list, starting with whichever file is currently selected. Okay, let's wrap this text. And now we have one row per file name, and then we have one column per statistic that we wanted to export. And then so you could go on and continue your analysis from here or do whatever you need to with these statistics. Okay. And we also have exported this PowerPoint, and you can see that it looks exactly like our layout did. Each of these is actually its own object, so you could just rearrange this on the PowerPoint slide however you'd like. If you need to delete an object, you can. So for your PowerPoint presentation in your lab meeting, if you needed just a plot, you can just make it really big. It's a very high definition, high resolution. And then you can see here that we have one slide of our layout per data file. And as we go through these slides, the data on all of the plots and the data on the statistics tables are going to change from slide to slide for each data file. On a PC, another great feature, because of the way that we export our vector images, you have an option to ungroup all of these components. So if I right click on this and I go to group and choose ungroup, then each of these becomes its own editable component. So if we didn't like the way that this title was here and we didn't have the chance to fix it in FCS Express before we exported, then we can always make that edit here. If we don't like this title, we can change that. If we wanted just the distribution of the data to use somewhere else, we could drag that out and use that somewhere else. So it's just really customizable based on the way that we export our vector images. Okay, so I'm going to exit this PowerPoint. All right, so we've gone over batch processing. And if you did want to just do a one-off export to PowerPoint, PDF, or an image, and you just wanted to export your layout exactly as it looks right now, regardless of how many pages you have. So you might have 10 different pages and you want it to all be exported exactly as it looks right now. And you don't need it to batch through all of your data files. You can go to this file tab and you can press the export button here. And then I can just show you an example of what the PDF would look like. So if we export to PDF, we do have to choose a save location and a name. I'm just going to call this PDF on my desktop. And you can choose which pages to export. I only have one right now, but we could export multiple. And then I'm going to press OK. And then we have this exported and it looks just like our layout. But notice that the things that are on the gray space have not been exported because this is a PDF. Okay. So this is one method of using FCS Express. We do batch processing. We are using the same analysis strategy for every data file, and we want to just scroll through our data list like this. The other way that we can use FCS Express is viewing multiple data files on the page at once. So I'll show you how we can do that on this other page. So if we want to create a new plot for each of these data files, we can simply drag and drop a file from the data list, and then we're prompted to choose which plot type we want to add. You can add multiple at once if you need to, but I'm just going to choose a density plot here. And then if we wanted to, we could actually add all of them at once. So if we want to highlight multiple data files and drag them and drop them onto our layout, we can do that. And then it's going to say open plots for a certain file. And we can just keep pressing OK if we want to add a density plot for each one. Okay, and then we have all of these plots, and we have one plot per data file. And I'll just move these out of the way. And you can see that in the title here, each one has a different name. So we have the one that ends in 40, the one that ends in 38, the one that ends in 39, the one that ends in 22. And then we can go in and change those axes. If you wanted to just duplicate the plot and apply a different data file to it, I can show you how we can do that instead. So let me just delete these to get them out of the way. So if we want to duplicate a plot, there's a couple different ways we can do that. The easiest way is right-clicking and pressing duplicate. And so that now it's identical. It is showing that same exact data file, but if we wanted to instead show a different data file, we can simply drag and drop the new data file from the data list onto that plot, as I showed you earlier. And then we have those same axes. Okay. So another, if we want to report some statistics for all of these data files in the same spreadsheet, we can also do that. So I'm going to insert a new spreadsheet. And we have that over here. And then I can highlight all of my data files in my data list, and I can drag and drop them all right into my spreadsheet. And then I can choose a keyword or a statistic token, press OK, and here I can multiple select if I want to. So if I need to select a parameter for median or mean, I can do that here. If I want to choose gates, I can choose them here. So let's say I want to report the percent parent for CD3, CD8, and CD4. Then I can press OK. And if I want to report let me wrap this text so that you can see those headers better. If we also want a file name here, let me move these over. Okay, I just copied and cut and paste those to move them over. If I wanted to add the file names here, let's see, we can just drag and drop anything, drag and drop all of our data files into here. And again, I want that file name from the statistics menu. Okay. And so now we have this spreadsheet that has one row per file name and then one column per statistic. And another great thing that we can do here with our spreadsheets is we can make a graph. So you don't need to copy and paste into Excel in order to make your graphs. So if I have my spreadsheet selected, I can go to the Insert tab and I can choose between a bar and a pie chart. And I will click on the bar chart and then click on my layout to add it here. And now these values are linked to our spreadsheet. So on the x-axis, we have the option to choose any column that is in my spreadsheet. So I do have 4 columns. I have the file name, the percent parent in CD3, the percent parent in CD8, and the percent parent in CD4 positive. And so I could choose to customize my axes according to that spreadsheet. So right now I do want to compare all of my files along the x-axis. But you can see that these file names are not fully shown here. We can fix that really quickly in our formatting menu. So I'm going to right click and open my formatting menu. And under the axes category, then if I scroll down to the labels, I can change the angle of those labels. And so if I choose, I need to do this for the x-axis. Might be on. Okay, so you can select the axis up here, which one you want to customize. I'm going to customize the x-axis. And there's labels here. Change this to 90 degrees, and now we can see all of those file names. Okay. And then for the value that is currently being displayed, it's the percent parent of CD3 positive. However, if we want to change that, we can simply change that based on here. And then the great thing is as we move our gates, then these bars are going to change in real time. So let's display both page 1 and 2 at the same time so that we can move those gates. So I'm going to the zoom thing at the top is in the way. Okay, I'm going to go to the view tab and choose to show 2 pages vertical. And now I have access to these gates. So if I am viewing percent parent in CD8, and then I go ahead and move that gate, you can see that those bars are going to update and adjust in real time. And also the statistics in this spreadsheet are updating in real time. Okay, awesome. So the last thing I want to show you is how to save your layout. I'm going to just view 1 page right now. So if we want to save our layout, we can go to the File tab and choose Save As, and then we can save this wherever we want. I recommend that you save it in the same folder as your data files, but it doesn't need to be saved in the same file, same folder. And then we do have 3 different options here for saving your layout. We can do with linked data, with embedded data, and with unlinked data. And so I'll explain briefly what each of these means. For linked data, that means that whatever data files are within your data list, the layout is going to remember the location of those files on your computer. So next time you go and open up this saved layout, then all of those data files will automatically be loaded into your data list and automatically displayed exactly on the plots and in the statistics that they're being displayed in right now. With embedded data, this will, for whatever data files are currently being displayed on your plots and in your statistics tables, those data files are going to be embedded in the layout. So then when you go and open up your data file or your layout in the future, your plots and your statistics tables, they're going to look exactly as they do right when you save them. And this is also useful if you need to send a layout to somebody else, but you don't want to have to send them the data files as well. You can embed them, but just note that it's only going to embed those files that are currently being displayed. So it's not going to save every single data file that's in your data list, only the ones that are currently being displayed on the layout. Okay, the third option is with unlinked data, and this is ideal for templating. So if you are running the same experiment over and over again, and you just are trying to change out the data files that you're analyzing, the unlinked data is useful. So when you save it like this, and then you open up the data file in the future, none of your data files are going to be loaded back into the data list. And the layout is not going to remember the location of those data files on your computer. So, but all of your plots and statistics tables are all going to be existing in your layout. And so let me just show you what it looks like and how you could use this kind of saving technique for templating. So I'm going to save with unlinked data, and I'm just going to call it template. And then when I exit, let me see, I just want to save it for batch processing. So I'm going to just delete these extra objects because this was running a little bit of a different analysis strategy. Okay, so now I have this basic analysis here, and I do want to be able to do batch processing in the future just for new data files. So I could if I wanted to delete all of these data files and then load in new data files, that's fine. But if I want to save my my layout as a template, I can do it this way. So I'm just going to save as the template. And then when I exit this and I go back and open it, you're going to see what that looks like. Okay, so in our data file or our data list, we have no data files here, but we do have our plots, we have our gates, we have our statistics tables, but it's just not showing that data. And so we kind of need to plug in that new data in order to display it in the way that we want it to display. So we can do that by clicking on that plus sign in the data list, and then I'll go and get my data files. And I'm using the same data files that I was before, but just know that if you do load in brand new data files, this will work in the same way. So open these, and then just to get these to display on my layout, I'm going to select this first data file and choose the icon at the top for change file. And then I'm going to change the data on all plots. And then we pop right back into this formation, and all our data are going to be displayed on our plots and our tables. Okay, so now we are done with the introductory portion and getting started with FCS Express. And now I can move on to something a little bit more advanced. Okay. So I'm going to start with a new layout, and I'm going to just show you how we can go through some compensation in FCS Express. So if I have not compensated my data on the instrument yet, and I want to run compensation in FCS Express, I'm going to find this tool under the Tools tab and open compensation and unmixing. And then I can click this plus sign to create a new transformation. And then we have step-by-step instructions here on what you have to do. So the step one is going to be to load in our single stained controls, which you should have recorded on your instrument. And we can click that manila envelope in order to load them in. And so I'm just going to go and find my controls. So I have them here, and I can multiple select by holding down my shift key. And I'm going to include an unstained control, but you don't need to include an unstained control if every control has both a positive and a negative population. I'm going to press open file here. And then immediately a lot of things happen. We have loaded all of our files in here, and each one has been assigned to a parameter. And it does this automatically as long as you have that parameter name within your data file. FCS Express will know to assign it to the correct parameter. So you can just do a once over, make sure down the list that the correct parameter has been assigned. And if not, you can go ahead and change it to the correct one. It's also automatically assigned my unstained control to be the negative control. And that was done automatically because it kind of detected that that name is in here. If you name it unstained or if you name it negative control, then FCS Express will know to assign it to that negative control here. Then in this third column, we have the negative control column. And this is where you assign which file you want to use as the negative control for each parameter. For me, I want to use a universal negative. So I've included an unstained control, and then automatically my negative control has been assigned as that unstained control for every parameter. But if you do have both a negative and a positive population in your control, your single color control, you can use the self as the negative instead of an unstained control. And you can kind of mix and match these as needed. If you're mixing beads and cells as your compensation controls, you can really customize this for your assay. Okay. So as soon as we've loaded in those controls, then bunch of stuff has happened, but you'll notice behind here that all these plots and gates have been created automatically. Let's go on to step 2. Here you can select which X and Y parameters you want to use for scatter, but normally you would just use forward scatter and side scatter, but just know you do have the option to change that if you need to. And then for step 3, we can see if when the histograms were being built, if there were any errors. And normally it's fine, but just you will be able to tell here what went wrong if you get a message. Okay, and now we do want to go on to these pages and adjust our gates. So on this scatter plot tab, we have one plot that's displaying our single color control, and we have one plot that's displaying our unstained control. And then we have the same gate, it's called scatter gate. And we can insert a gate view here to see what this organization of the gates is. And again, this was all done automatically by the software. We don't have to go in and make all of these gates. So we have only one scatter gate that is being applied to all of our controls, but we can use that data specific gate feature under the gating tab if we do need a different gating position for every control. So we can see here between my single color control and my unstained control, we do need to slightly adjust that scatter gate. So for this one, I'm going to hold down my shift key while I reshape this. Okay, and now you can see here that that's a data specific gate. And then I'm going to do the same for my unstained control. I can hold down the shift key, move that gate, and resize it so that it is the perfect position for my unstained control. Okay, and so that's all we have to do on this first page. And then you can see down here, there was one page that was made for every control, every single color control. So I'm going to go on to this APC control. So at the top, we can adjust that scatter gate again if we need to. And then we have two histograms. One is for the positive population called stained, and one is for the negative population called unstained. And then we can go in and we don't need to create a data specific gate here for any of these markers because they are already their own gate. So we can just rearrange this if we need to expand it, shrink it, move it. That's really customizable. The software will automatically choose a position for these markers that's kind of close to where that peak is, but you can always go in and customize it to make it more appropriate. So we've done that, and then we'll go on to the next one. And so you just go parameter by parameter and make the adjustments as needed. So I don't need to show you moving this for every single parameter, but just know you have those adjustments that you can make for each parameter. Okay, what this will look like if we don't have an unstained control. If we instead wanted to use the self as the negative, let's say for the APC, then you would just have one histogram made here, and you'll have both of those gates on the same histogram. So we can have an unstained and a stained population. And I don't have an unstained population in this single color control. So this is not appropriate, but just know this is what it would look like if you instead choose to use the self as the negative. Okay. And then after all of those markers have been adjusted, we actually are recalculating that matrix automatically every time you move the gates. If you have really large data files, or if you don't want that recalculation to happen automatically, you can choose to uncheck this under step 6, and then you can go ahead and press calculate matrices whenever you are ready. And so we have this compensation matrix and we have the spillover matrix that get calculated. And then you'll have some color coding here. So if you see yellow or red here, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It just means that it needs your attention and you need to just think about it in terms of your panel, if that number really makes sense for that spillover value or for the compensation value. And so if it's red, for example, or yellow here, just we encourage you to just take a look at it and really think, is that correct? Is there something wrong? And there might be something wrong. You may have not gated your controls properly, and that's causing the number to be way higher than it should be. But if it is normal for the number of parameters that you're running and how close together your fluorophores are in the spectrum, then there's no extra attention needed here. Okay, so in addition to those matrices, you also get spillover spreading matrix automatically calculated and a cross stain index matrix automatically calculated. Okay. So now that is how we have calculated compensation, and we recommend that you calculate the compensation in a new layout on its own and not in the same layout that you are doing your analysis in. We're making a lot of different histograms and plots and gates here, and we don't want you to get confused. It can just add a lot of extra plots and gates to your analysis layout if you try to do compensation in that same layout as your analysis. So then we can export this compensation. Once it's all calculated, we would export that compensation here. And we're going to be saving a compensation file. So I'm just going to call this comp and press save, and I saved it to my desktop. And then when we are doing our analysis of our fully stained samples, let's open a new layout to do that analysis. And I'm going to go to my data tab and open my data list. And then I want to load in my fully stained sample. So here I have all colors and I'll load that in. And let's just make a plot here. I'm going to make a density plot. So I've done that by dragging and dropping my file from the data list onto my layout. And let's just view CD4 versus CD8. And so right now, this says compensated because it was previously compensated on the instrument. But if we want to apply our new compensation, we can go to the Tools tab and go to the compensation window here. And then we can load in or import a transformation. And this is where our compensation file comes in. So I've saved this compensation file on my desktop. I can click that to open it. And that is showing up right here. So we have our compensation matrix and our spillover matrix here. And if you do need to edit them, you do have the opportunity to go in and type in values here, although it may not be correct. You know, it's really your responsibility to get those compensation values calculated correctly, and the wizard can help you to do that. Okay. So then if we want to apply this new compensation, then we can simply drag and drop it onto our plot. And you've seen that the population shifted. And if we want to then set this new one as the default, we can right click on it and press set as default. And now every time we make a new plot or we change that data file, then that new compensation is going to be applied instead of the one that was recorded or calculated on the instrument. Okay, so now we're done with compensation here. I'm going to exit out of this layout. And I'll exit out of this layout as well. And now we can move on to some spectral features of FCS Express. So the first one, while compensation is kind of on the brain, we can go into our unmixing software. I'm not going to go through every single step with you because it's so similar to compensation, but I'll just show you where you can access it and what that extra special step is going to be. So we're going to go into the Tools tab and go to Compensation and Unmixing. And if we want to add unmixing, we can click that here. So you're welcome to do unmixing on your instrument, and that's probably what most people are going to do. And then you would load your already unmixed data files into FCS Express. That's the easiest way to do it. However, some people do want to do unmixing of their raw data files in FCS Express. And you can do that if you have your single color controls. So I've created this new unmixing. And we have, again, this automatic unmixing setup. And we're seeing these same steps here, step 1 through 6. So the first step is to load our single stained controls. And we can do that the same way as we did before. And you just need one single color control per parameter. And I'll open the files. And then here, the label is going to be the same as whatever your control is called. And here, I have loaded in an unstained control, and so it's automatically set this to be the negative control. But again, you can use the self as the negative if you wish. Then the next step, again, is to choose those scatter gate parameters. And then the new step here that's special for spectral unmixing is choosing a parameter to unmix. And we need to select that here. And normally, I think people would use all of these colors, but you can choose just a single color if you need. And then as soon as we select that parameter to unmix, FCS Express is right now doing a bunch of calculations and generating a bunch of plots and gates. Okay, so now we can put this over to the side and we can go and we see we have one page for every single control. And so then again, you would go in and make the adjustments that you need for those scatter gates and your stained or unstained markers here. And then another plot that appears for every single control is the spectrum plot. And so this allows you to see across all of your detectors what that spectrum is and what the intensity is for that control. And then so this is a nice way to view from control to control what that intensity looks like across all of your different detectors. And then after your unmixing has been calculated, you can see there's a visualized mixing matrix that's automatically created. And this shows you across all of your detectors what the intensity is for all of your controls. So that's really just overlaying all of your controls. So see the spectral signatures. Okay, great. So once we're done with the unmixing, if you want to use that and apply it to your raw data files, then we're going to do the same thing that we did with the compensation. We're going to just click the save button. We could save it as a .unmixing file. And then we would go into a new layout or our analysis layout. And then in the Tools tab, we can import that transformation here. And you would just have to choose unmixing from this file type here. And I think, where did I save it? Here? Yeah, saved it here. And you can open that and then that will be here. And again, you can apply that to your plots. Okay, so in addition to doing unmixing in FCS Express, that's one spectral feature, but we also have the spectrum plot that might be helpful as you're doing your analysis of spectral data. So let me open a new layout here. And we can add in go to the data tab, and I'll make the data list. And I'm going to add in some of my unmixed files. Now these were unmixed on the Aurora. So when you export from the Aurora, you do generally have these two folders that are exported. We have a raw folder and an unmixed folder. And so typically, if you have already unmixed your files, you would just go into your unmixed folder and then find whatever file you want to analyze. So I'm going to load in these two files for right now, and they've been added to my data list. And then I can drag and drop them onto my plot or onto my layout in order to add a plot. I'm just going to add a density plot here. So then you can go on and just do your analysis as you typically would. And this is with your unmixed data. The other thing that you can look at is the spectrum plot. So if I drag and drop this, instead of making a density plot, if I want to add a spectrum plot here, I can do that. And this will be able to display your unmixed file as long as the structure of your files on your the structure of the folders on your computer are as they were when you exported from the Aurora. So what I mean is that they are in this structure. You have your raw files in the raw folder and you have the unmixed files in this unmixed folder, because FCS Express does need to reference those raw files in order to pull in the spectral signature here. So if you don't like looking at the spectrum plot in this way, we can look at it in a different way. But first, let's change this axis so we can look at all of those detectors at once. And again, if we don't want it to be smushed like this on the axis, we can right click and open our formatting menu. And I'm going to go to the axes and again, go to the label and change the label for the x-axis. I'm going to change this to 90 degrees, and now we can see all of those detector labels. Okay. Again, in this formatting menu, we can make this look a little bit different. So it might be easier to read or easier to do overlays with. So under overlays here, instead of the overlay to show, I'm showing all of the spectrums. I just want to show the average spectrum. And so that makes this line a lot cleaner. And if I want to interpolate those, I can do that under the specific options category and interpolate the values here. So we have a line that's all connected. And if I want to overlay a bunch of different files and kind of compare that spectral signature from file to file, I can do that here by dragging and dropping my other file onto the plot. And then I can add the file onto the plot as a new overlay. Press OK. And again, I'm just going to have to go to this overlays page and change to the average spectrum. And then I can compare those signatures side by side. I can do this overlay for as many files as I want. I just have to add them to the data list first. We can do overlays for any type of plot in FCS Express. So for histograms, that's really the most popular one. If we wanted to compare the CD14 signature for multiple data files, again, we can drag and drop any files from the data list and add as overlays. And you'll have in this overlays category the list of all of your overlays. And you can click on them one by one. You can change the color of the line. You can do a lot of different customizations here. And if we need a legend on any of our plots, we can go to the formatting menu, go to the legend category, and then make that visible. And you can change where it's being viewed, if you want it on the left or the right or the bottom, etc. And then if you want to change that text in that legend, we can go to the overlays category, and then you can type in whatever legend text you want, or you can choose a keyword or a gate or a tube number, etc. to use as that legend text. So if we wanted to do that, then we could. Okay, so that is all of the spectral stuff that I wanted to show you today. Now we can go on to high dimensional data reduction, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's super cool, and it helps make your analysis really easy, especially when you're recording a ton of parameters. So I'm going to go to new layout. And the first step is to merge all of our data files. So I'm going to go to the data tab and go to data list. And you may not have to merge all of your files depending on the algorithm that you choose to use. I want to do t-SNE today, so I am going to be merging all of my data files. So I'm going to click on this plus sign, and I have all of my samples here. So I'm going to highlight all of my samples, and I'm going to select merge FCS files. And now they are all listed down here, and I'll press the open file. Now you can see we only have this one file, but it is all of our files merged into one. And now you may be wondering, well, now all of that data is just merged together. I'm not going to be able to differentiate all of my files. Well, that's not true. We can definitely differentiate our files, even if they're merged. And we can do that on a plot. So I'm going to insert, it doesn't matter which plot that we choose. I'm going to just choose a density plot. So actually I can just drag and drop that. It's easier to drag and drop it from my data list onto the layout, and I'll just choose a density plot, make sure I'm not inserting a spectrum plot. And then we can now, since we've merged those files, we have this file identifier and classification identifier. The file identifier numbers your files 1 through, in this case, 1 through 8. But it's more descriptive to choose the classification identifier, which will give that file name. So I'm going to choose that here. And then we have all of our files listed here. And again, for this axis, if we want to make it easier to read, we can, in the formatting menu, change that label orientation. Okay. And then we're free to gate around our files. So if we only wanted to view one sample on a different plot, for example, here, instead of showing the merged file, we can just show one at a time. So I'm going to add a rectangle gate here, and I'll just call this sample. And I can apply that gate to this plot by dragging and dropping that gate onto the plot. And then I can change these axes. And if I want to then view a different, let me just make this a little bit more narrow so we're more selective. If I just want to show sample 2, then I can put the gate around sample 2. If I just want to show sample 3, I can do that. So you can see how you can easily just show one of your files within the merged file at a time in this way. Okay, so let's go on to high dimensional data reduction. I want to make a t-SNE. So I'm going to go to tools and transformations, and then I can add a new transformation here. What I'm going to do today is keep it a little simple. I'm going to just choose this pre-made t-SNE algorithm, but just know that we do have the option to do pipelines. And this is a new feature. This allows you to add steps to data transformation. So you don't have to just do one data transformation. You can add a bunch of steps. So if we wanted to first add some downsampling, and then we wanted to add some scaling, and then we wanted to go and do t-SNE, and then we wanted to go and do something else, then you can keep adding these steps. You can also rearrange the order of the steps here. And this is how you can do a bunch of different data transformations one after the other. But this is a little bit more advanced. For today, I want to just keep it simple. So I'm going to delete that pipeline. And I'm just going to add a simple TISNI here. And you have this option here to automatically calculate the TISNI. This means that every time something changes, your gate changes or another option changes, then that TISNI is going to be recalculated. And it's a little bit more intensive of an algorithm. It takes a little bit of time to run. So it might get a little annoying to have it constantly recalculate every time you change something. So I'm going to keep this unchecked, but just know if you do want it to automatically calculate, then you can check this box. Okay, so we can run the TISNI on all events if we wanted to, and in that case, we would choose no gate, but I do want to be a little bit more selective, get rid of some debris and extra events that are in my data file. So I'm going to insert a plot, and I'm going to do forward and side scatter here. And then I'm just going to draw a gate, polygon gate around my cells of interest here. So it's a little bit more clean. Okay, and so now I have my cells gate, and I can choose just to run the TISNI on my cells gate. And then down here, we could select whatever parameters are appropriate for your assay, and I'm going to just choose my fluorescence parameters here. If you need to adjust the scaling, you can do that here. This suffix is going to appear in my title, whatever I call it, after I apply that transformation, but TISNI mapped is fine for me. Because the TISNI takes a while to run, I don't want to run it on every single data point. So I'm going to do some interval downsampling here. You can choose whatever kind of downsampling you want. I'm going to that will take a little bit longer. So we run this Barnes Hunt approximation frequently, and it still gives a really good map and a really good result. So for these hyperparameters, you can read more about those details and how they influence the TISNI calculator iteration. So that map is going to get more and more accurate, but it's also going to take a lot longer. So it's kind of important to just find that balance between the number of iterations and the amount of time that you need the transformation to take. You can also choose to use OptTISNI, which is a slightly different variation of that algorithm. And we can also estimate the TISNI for unsampled events. So since we're downsampling up here, I do want to do this to estimate the TISNI for unsampled events. So we're not limiting the number of events that we can analyze. All right, and then we're all done. So you did not need to learn programming. You did not need to plug in any R plugin. We are all done with setting up that TISNI. And now we can apply it to a plot. So I'm going to make another plot. And then move this out of the way. And then how we apply this TISNI is by dragging and dropping it from that transformations window onto our plot. And if this box was checkmarked, then you would start to see that calculation running immediately. But since I have it unchecked, I do have to tell it that I'm ready to calculate. So I can click that button, and you'll see down here, it's going and counting up the iterations. So it's already at 68, and we're only going up to 500. And so you can see that within 30 seconds, we're going to have a really nice TISNI map. Of course, it's going to take longer. The number of, if you have more data files to process, more data points to process, more parameters. But you can see that it can be pretty quick. Okay, and now it is done. And the way that we can actually show that map on here is by changing these axes. So because the t-SNE has been applied here, we do have t-SNE X and t-SNE Y for the parameters. And look at how beautiful that is. We have our clusters that are forming for our different populations of interest. Okay, now I'm done with this window. I can exit it. And I'm going to show you how we can identify what these clusters are. So I'm going to copy this onto a new page. Okay. And in version 7 of our software, we do have a really handy multi-plot tool. So if we click on the plot here and we go to this multi-plot tab, we can color by all parameters. And we can select which parameters we want to make plots for. I'm just going to do my fluorescence parameters. And now we have these beautiful rainbow plots here. And right now we don't know what each one is referring to. We do need to add a legend. So I'm going to highlight all of these plots and go to the legends category of my formatting menu, and I can make them visible. And now you can see this plot refers to CD3 intensity. This plot refers to CD16 and 56 intensity, etc. And the higher intensity is indicated by a red color. So it's super easy to kind of pick out which populations or to pick out and identify each population. So over here, I see this is really red for CD4. So I'm going to assume that this is our CD4 positive population. And so if I go to the gating tab and I add a polygon gate, I can click around that cluster and I can give it a name. And then same for, let's find our CD8 positive population. I think that would be this one because it's really red. So I'm going to add another polygon gate here. And now we have those gates that are around those populations. And if we wanted to go and view those gates on a different plot, we could go in and insert another plot. And if we want to do CD4 versus CD8 here, and then we want to just apply this gate, let's see. We have CD4 positive, and that would just show over here. And so then you can confirm based on traditional gating strategies and just traditional analysis on these biparameter plots that you've chosen the correct identity of these clusters. And if we wanted to view those CD8 positives, indeed, they are showing up over here exactly where we would expect. So I just find t-SNE and other high dimensional data reduction tools really useful, especially if we have 40 parameters and we're trying to go through, if we wanted to go through and make a ton of biparameter plots, it would just take so long to figure out and get our bearings what each of these populations is. Okay. So we have about 15 minutes left. I have one more thing that I want to go through with you, and that is integrated curve fitting and fit statistics. I guess while we are here in between those topics, let me check. Okay, so if you, I'm seeing the chat, there's not really any questions here. But you guys can feel free to add in questions in the chat if any have come up, and I will try to answer those as they come in. I'm just going to move on. I don't see any questions right now. I'm going to move on to the next topic, but I will keep this open to be able to see your questions as they come in. Okay, so let's create a new layout. Okay, so I'm going to go in and add to my data list my samples. And instead of merging them, I just want to load them in individually right now. Okay, and then I want to make a plot. So let me just drag and drop sample 1 onto my layout, and I made a density plot. And if these come in the wrong order, we can always adjust that order by using these up and down arrows here. All right, and then let's do forward scatter and side scatter here and draw a gate around my cells. And then I do want to add a spreadsheet. So I'm going to add that here. And I can drag and drop, as I showed you before, drag and drop all of my files right into that spreadsheet. And then I can choose some statistics to add. So I want to use the CD3 parameter, and then I want the cells gate. And I can choose to report my file name as well as the median, CD3 intensity, and let's do arithmetic mean as well. And I'll press OK. All right, and then now that we have our spreadsheet here with our statistics, then we can add in the plots. So I showed you earlier, we can make a bar or a pie chart, but we can also add in scatter plot for that data, or scatter with regression plot. And if I click that and add that to my layout, then that is present here. And I can change the x-axis to median and have this y-axis to be the arithmetic mean. And again, these axis labels are going to be based on whatever the columns are in your spreadsheet. And then if I want to format this plot, I can again right-click and format, and I open this formatting menu. Okay, and then here, instead of linear, if we wanted to change that regression type, we can change it to something else. If we wanted to add in another regression, we can add that in here. And then we have both of those listed here. And then as we change our gate, then you can see that those regression curves are going to update in real time. And that can be really useful for you as you are trying to identify your populations and identify trends. Okay, I do have a question come in. Is there a button to change the axis scale? Yes, great question. So we can definitely adjust the axes. So for, let's do an example here. Add in a density plot. And let's do CD4 and CD8. And then in our formatting menu for that plot, we do have this axes category, and then you can choose for the x-axis or for the y-axis how you want that scaling to be. And by default, it would be automatic, which is probably going to be what it was recorded as on the instrument. In this case, it was by exponential for these parameters. However, you can customize that. So if you wanted to uncheck automatic, you can change that to a different type of scaling here. If you wanted instead linear or something else. And for by exponential, something that you can customize here is that below 0 parameter. So by default, we would apply the BD FACS-DIVA method, but you can also choose the 5th percentile method instead. And that is arranging the dots around the 0 point here. You can also customize it here by using a different value, and then you can use that slider bar if you want to adjust that 0 point on that axis. So regarding the range, so that is going to be the method of scaling. But if we want to adjust the range, I do not recommend you use this range option. That is going to cause you to lose resolution of the dots. If you want to maintain the resolution of the dots, but then just change the range of the axis, we would do that in the specific options category. And down here, you can choose which axis to adjust. And so I can show you for the x-axis, instead of automatic minimum and maximum, we can change what that range is going to be. So if I wanted to do, let's say, I don't know, negative 1,000 and then a different value here, just keep adding zeros if we wanted to, but that you can see, you can just customize the range of the axis there. You can also zoom in if you don't really know what the value should be here and you kind of want to zoom in or out of a population. We can right click and then we can magnify with resolution. And then if we wanted to zoom in on that population here, you won't lose that resolution, but you'll be able to just zoom in on a population. So I hope that answers your question. If we want to report statistics for our regression curves here, we can right click and go to statistics, just like we did with our other plots. And in addition to gate statistics here, we do have the regression parameter statistics option. And then for each of our regression curves, you'll see some of those related statistics that would be helpful for you as you're doing your analysis. So that is really everything that I wanted to go over today for you guys. I can stay on the line for a while if you have any other remaining questions or there's something else that you wanted me to demonstrate. So thank you so much for joining us today. I do just want to remind you of this email address for support. So again, that is support@denovosoftware.com. And you can always find our website at denovosoftware.com to find any information if you need to reach out to us or you want to find a lot more resources. And one final thing, very, very, very important, is we do have a demo available. It's a 30-day free trial of the fully functional software. So that is on our website if you want to try it out before asking David to join the site license. You can try it out here for 30 days. So on our website, denovosoftware.com, we have this free trial link. So if you click on that, you can go ahead and download that and you'll be able to use it. By fully functional, I mean it is the plus version of the software that includes the image analysis features. It includes the spectral analysis features and standard flow tools. It also has the complete multi-cycle package. So that allows you to do up to 3 cycles of cell cycle analysis. To analyze placed data. The standard version of the software does include cell cycle analysis and proliferation tools. So you do not need an add-on for that to just do like analysis of 1 cycle of cell cycle analysis. But if you did need to do multi-cycling for like 3 cycles, you would need the add-on, but you can try that out in that demo. Okay, I do have one other question here. Oh, is there a way to do backgating? Yes, absolutely. So great question. I probably should have shown you the color dot plots. I just really love using density plots, so I just kept adding density plots. So let me show you how to do that. Yep. So that is going to be found in the color dot plot. So if we go ahead and add a color dot plot, you can see that the color of the dots will be changed to whatever the gate is. So if we have our gate view over here, we have some cells, and then let's go to forward and side scatter here. I can actually show the gate on this plot. So if I go to the show gates option, I can show the cells. And if I need to add that label, I can recreate the gate text boxes that are missing here. Okay, so we have this color dot plot. We're showing that the red cells are in the cells gate. And then if I want to drill down on here, I can go on and let's just keep going with the CD4 and CD8. If I want to, let's see, add a population around here, and that's CD4 positive, then you can see here now these are blue and they will also appear backgating on this previous gate, on this previous plot. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, cool. Yep, so it's just based on the plot type. So sometimes a color dot plot will be useful for your analysis. Sometimes a density plot will be more useful. You can also add a contour plot. So that'll look pretty cool here. So it's all up to you, whatever is best for your analysis. All right. And David did record this webinar, so it'll be available to you if you want to watch it again in the future. Oh, how do we access the license? David can help you access that license. You'll have to make a de novo software account online, and you can do that on our website. So if you go to the login page, and you can press register today. That's how you make a de novo software account with your email address and a password. And then you can request access to the license from David. You're welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Thank you. Oh, it's Friday already.